Thank you so much for tuning into the MMA Roundtable. It's the 34th edition. It is June 6th, 2013. We got a lot to talk about. We're hitting the summer of MMA. Lots of fights being announced. Actually, probably about 6 or 7 we're going to be talking about. Lots of main events to talk about, including both the UFC on Fox Sports 1 cards. We also, this Saturday, have UFC on Fuel TV. Big Nog vs. Verdum coming up. The Tough Brazil 2 finale. Let's get to it. And thank you so much for tuning in to the MMA Roundtable. Today, it's going to be 4 of us. It's going to be myself, Ray, Ramses, and a first-timer to the Roundtable, Brooks. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you do want to listen to the Roundtable, we do it every Thursday from 5 to 7 Eastern. That's 2 to 4 on the West Coast, or 10 to 12 at night if you're over in the UK, like Ray. Speaking of Ray, MMA Mental, the Early Stoppage podcast, talking about cage contenders. You got so much on your plate right now. It's ridiculous. Talk to us a little bit about it and where we can find MMA Mental.
Yeah, we're doing well. We've got a lot going on at the minute, which is pretty cool. Early Stoppage. Jay spoke to Kurt Holloway this week. Obviously, Kurt's coming off a solid performance against Steven Siler, where he lost a really close fight and then was cut, which was a bit of a shocker, really. I think he should have got at least one more fight. So that was a good interview. I spoke to John Maguire yesterday. He's just about to get ready to fly out to Winnipeg, Canada for UFC 161. Me and Brooks did our regular show with Luke Barnett, UFC, and Tough 17 middleweight standout. We just breaking down the main fight, so definitely check that out. And if I haven't already said it, I'm going to say it again anyway. Obviously, I'm now a commentator. So yeah, I've been signed to commentate for future events for Cage Contender, which obviously I'm very excited about. That's the #1 promotion in Ireland, and they're the only promotion in Ireland to have a TV deal, and probably one of only about 3 promotions in the UK to have a TV deal. So yeah, there you go.
All right, I actually just wrote it down at 2:25 because I'm going to get that drop of you saying, I'm a commentator, and I'm going to play it all the damn time. That's the best drop I've ever heard. But no, it's really awesome, Ray, starting this little show up with you alongside the MMA podcast and MMA Mental, and seeing you're really taking off from asking Dana White questions at the post-fight press conference to actually being a commentator. You said you were going to do it, and from what I had heard, I was like, man, I think like most sports guys, they're in school for 4 to 6 years. This is going to be really difficult. And I listened to it, dude. You were as smooth as any MMA commentator I've ever heard. And I honestly would not be shocked if in 5 or 6 years we had all Ray doing all the UFC UK events. They're going international. They're going to start doing more things. They're going to need more than 2 sets of announcers. And I put in that Ray being a UFC commentator by at least 2020. We also have another regular on the show, Ramses, with the Word on the Street podcast, doing it every Tuesday and Thursday. Last Thursday, you had Bob Sapp on. This Thursday, I believe you're having Coach Jamie Huey and Adam Sella on. Tell us where to find you, and tell us about the Word on the Street.
You gotta follow the Aunt Jimmy Show on Twitter. That'll give you the Word on the Street, and if you do that right now today, special time only, limited number of slots here. You follow me on Twitter, you will get laid by a beautiful woman tonight. Word on the street.
That's guaranteed. And once again, sorry if my voice sounds horrible. I woke up and my throat and voice was all messed up, so you might hear me pop in a cough drop or something later, just so my voice doesn't devolve to absolute shit. But we also have a first-timer on the show tonight. Ray mentioned he is on MMA Mental. Way back during the MMA at Work days, we actually did a couple shows with Brooks. Josh and I did. And it is Brooks Bailey, better known as the Playground Samurai. And he's starting up something in MMA Addiction. Tell us where to find you on Twitter, and tell us all about MMA Addiction, man. And thank you for coming on the Roundtable.
Hey, I appreciate it, Jake. I want to give a big shout out to Ray for helping me out with all this stuff also. But if you guys want to go ahead and give me a follow on Twitter, it's at the MMA Addiction. Don't fuck that up. It's at the MMA Addiction with only one A. You can give me a like on Facebook. It's the MMA Addiction. Like I said, it's only one A in there. MMA Addiction's one word. Don't fuck it up. We're just going to be posting all the news, interviews. We've been doing some podcasts with Luke Barnett. So we're going to be posting all that. And just give us a like, give us a follow, and we'll keep you up to date.
And if they do fuck it up, you probably don't even want them following, because that's pretty fucking simple. Finally, we have the MMA podcast. It's the show that I run every Friday. I was actually talking with the guys before the show started, and just about an hour ago, I realized today is the 1 year anniversary of the first MMA podcast. Shout out to Chris. Shout out also to Darren Cruikshank and John Albert, because those were two guests on that show. We lined up a couple UFC fighters for our first show. It's been a year, and I know both on the side of Chris and myself. We've enjoyed the shit out of it, and we're very much looking forward to the next year of MMA podcasting. You can listen to the MMA podcast every Friday. We do it 6 to 8 Eastern. That's 6 to 8 Eastern, I can't do math, 3 to 5 Pacific, and midnight to 2. I'm not even going to try for the UK, but tomorrow we're having Adam Hunter, aka MMA Roasted. Sorry to scroll down and make sure there were no underscores or anything. He's MMA Roasted on Twitter. You probably follow him already. He has some funny shit going down. But this is the Roundtable, and we will get to today's group of topics. First off, we've got a bunch of fight announcements to talk about after the Bonehead of the Week, but first a few little news topics, starting off with Anderson Silva, widely regarded the greatest of all time. He officially has signed the 10-fight deal with the UFC. Now, I believe he can, if he chooses to, retire before the 10 fights are over, but the 10 fights do mean that he won't be fighting with any other fighting company until he fights 10 more fights with the UFC. So he will finish his career in the UFC, in the octagon. Before we talk about how he'll fare as he gets older, first I want to pass it around. Any way he actually fights 10 more times in the UFC. I believe he's either 36 or 37. He is definitely getting old. Ramses, will he fight a full 10 fights or retire before he fulfills his contract?
If he does somehow manage to fight the whole 10 fights, the last 6 or 7 are just going to be jokes. This guy is done. I'm not saying he's a bum, but come on, look, they have him on paper down as being 38 years old or some shit.
Yeah, I'm looking now. He turned 38 April 14th of this year.
Yeah, well, I have it on good authority that he's closer to 43 people. He's running out of gas here. But the 10-fight deal makes sense because he's a smart businessman at this point. That's pretty much all he's good at right now. I don't believe he has the fight left in him to take on these new guys coming through that are going to challenge him. So basically he made this 10-fight deal based on what he's worth now. But I guarantee you, 2 or 3 more fights in, he's going to have a loss on his hands. He's not going to be worth a damn thing. So good on him for making the best deal at the best possible time that he could. He's a smart businessman, but his fighting days are numbered. It's only a matter of time, and that's, he is a great fighter. But God damn it, he's going to have to lose sometime. And that's the damn truth. It's the word on the street. It's the damn sad truth. But he doesn't have 10 good fights left in him. He's got maybe 2 or 3.
Brooks?
Yeah, I think he could do another 10 fights. I think it's just going to depend on how well he does along the way. If he turns out to be a human being and ends up losing a fight somewhere along the way, maybe he'll lose 1, but if he loses 2 or 3, I don't think he'll want to continue going, I guess, tarnish his legacy or whatever they like to say. But, if he keeps on demolishing everybody they put in front of him, like Ramses was saying, everybody wants that Anderson Silva money, so he's making all that money. If he's knocking out everybody in front of him, why not keep on going for the whole 10 and then sign another 10 after that? I don't know. He's done 10 fights in 5 years, it looks like. So he'll be, 43 by time if he continues on the same pace. I don't know. I think Weidman's going to be a big challenge for him myself. So if he can get past Weidman after that, I don't think there's anybody else that's really on his level to be able to even contend with him anyway. So, yeah, I think he can do another 10 if he can get past Weidman.
I don't know if he can do another 10 or not. It's hard to say, but if he does do another 10, I'm looking forward to watching them because it's very rare you have an Anderson Silva boring fight. We've seen a few fights he's done which haven't been very good, and the fights jump out to me with Damian Maia and Tyler's latest, but he seemed to go through a stage where he seemed to lose interest because he weren't being challenged. But when he's fighting good people, and he is very, very exciting to watch. So yeah, I think, can he do another 10? I really don't know if he can or not because of his age, but if he does do another 10, I can't wait to see him.
We do see more and more guys fight into their 40s, and I think Anderson has looked great so far at 38. And I'm not saying with that much conviction, but I do think he fights those 10 fights. So if he does fight those 10 fights, or even if he doesn't, what do you think his record is going to be in his remaining UFC fights? He's currently 16-0 in the UFC. Is there any way after this contract he's 26-0, or will he get older? Will the young lions come up? He does have very, very tough tasks facing him. Chris Weidman, a lot of people think, is his biggest challenge he's ever faced being in the UFC. That's his next fight. Even if he gets over that hurdle, the super fights with George St. Pierre and John Jones still remain. Is there any way he goes 10-0? What will the future hold for Anderson Silva? Ramses, I know what you think.
Yeah, man. Within 3 fights, Anderson Silva will be defeated for the first time in the UFC. Steven Seagal was right. I think he's got it. He's got the call right on this one, man. Like I said, everybody loses. The word on the street is that Anderson Silva is approaching 47 years old. It's gonna all come crumbling down for him pretty damn soon. So, yeah, he'll lose. And I think after he loses the belt, I really don't see any reason for him to continue. Of course, besides the last money cash out fight, which is going to be versus GSP. There's no way that fight happens while either of them are still champions. So yeah, that's my guess. He loses sometime in the next 3 fights, and then he fights GSP just to cash out, and that's the last time we ever see Andy Silva. What do you think, Brooks?
I think that he'll probably make it close to the 10 fights. I'm predicting that. I think he'll get close 6 or 7 fights in. There'll be some up and comer up by then, ready to challenge for the title. He'll get beat finally, and then of course they're probably going to give him an immediate rematch considering how long he's been the champion, and he'll probably get beat again, and that'll be the end of his reign, and I think he'll be done after that. Like I said, I don't think he's going to continue going on fighting after he loses twice. He's not going to go on and not fight for the title since he's been the champion so long. I can't even imagine him not being the champion in the UFC. It wouldn't be right. So yeah, I'll give him close to the 10 fights. I'll say 7 or 8 fights.
I really think that his next fight's a really tough fight. I think Chris Weidman could upset Anderson Silva. I've said that before. We've talked about it. I think he could be the one to upset him, personally. But at the end of the day, this is Anderson Silva, and he has proven himself to be not just good or great, but a league above most of his opponents. I mean, the way he's toyed with some of his opponents has been ridiculous. I think the only guy who probably recently who's really, really pushed him hard was Chael Sonnen in their first fight. I mean, not so much the second fight, but the first fight, Sonnen was fantastic, and he really came close to beating Anderson Silva, and we all know that. And I know Ramses will appreciate me saying that as well. Yeah. And I'm not a Sonnen nut hugger like some of the guys on this show, but yeah, and I'm saying that. So it was definitely, it's the only time I've actually seen Silva look beatable. Other than that, he's always looked unbeatable. And even against top-tier competition, he's never really had easy fights. He's always had top-tier competition, but he's made them look easy. So if he was to go another 10 fights, if he was to go 26-0, then not only is, in my opinion, is he the greatest MMA fighter of all time, as they say, the GOAT, I think he could actually be the greatest of all time in any combat sport. I mean, that would be phenomenal to go 26-0 in the UFC. If he does that, then I'm calling him for the GOAT, not just of MMA, but of all combat sports.
Maybe any sport, period. I mean, winning 26 championship fights, that's almost like winning 26 straight majors in golf or tennis, 26 straight championships. I mean, every title fight is you against the next best guy. And yes, even though Silva's fought a few questionable people, I mean, he fought Lieben that one fight, and then he was, literally after one fight going up for the championship after that crazy knockout in the first minute of the first round against Lieben. Ray, I kind of side with you. Anderson Silva, he really did, he beat one of my favorite fighters of all time twice, and that hurts, but I can't let it get in the way of really appreciating. I mean, Silva really is the greatest we've ever seen. He might be the greatest we will ever see. He and Jones are in a league of their own, and really John Jones is the only name that I think is a huge threat to him going 26-0. Weidman does have a chance, and Weidman I think is going to be up there with Sonnen as far as middleweights who have fought him and tested him. But, I mentioned earlier, I get why people are going for Weidman. He is an animal. He's an excellent wrestler. He's got dangerous striking. But it kind of shocks me that more people are picking Weidman than Sonnen, at least more people that I'm seeing on Twitter. Because when it comes down to it, who has Weidman beat? He beat Maia in a sloppy fight on eight days' notice, and he beat Mark Munoz, who might not even be a top 10 middleweight. Yes, I do think he could beat everyone outside the top 5, but I don't think he's tested enough. I do think he is the number 2, but he's going to have a rude awakening when he steps into the octagon with Anderson Silva. Moving on to people we might think of as the greatest of all time when it comes down to it. Jose Aldo will be defending his featherweight championship against Anthony Pettis. Pettis, though, has not fought at featherweight, and that's ruffled up the feathers of a couple of featherweight contenders, including Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie, saying that Pettis has not earned his shot at the featherweight championship. Do you agree with Chan Sung Jung, or do you think that Pettis really deserves this shot against Aldo? Brooks?
I agree with the Korean Zombie. I don't think he's earned his shot. Clay Guida's down at 145 now. Clay Guida beat Anthony Pettis. Does that mean that he's going to get a shot without doing anything? So at 155. He barely got past Jeremy Stevens, and don't get me wrong, he looked really super impressive, against Lausanne and Cerrone, ending those fights fairly quickly. But I gotta agree with the Korean Zombie. But at the same time, I don't know if the Korean Zombie has a leg to stand on. Is he trying to say that? I guess he did say he doesn't necessarily deserve the shot because he got kicked in the face by George Roop and knocked out. But who's fighting at 135 now. But, I would have liked to seen Lamas get the shot. I thought that he had done enough along the way, and he definitely deserves a shot over Anthony Pettis. But all this being said, it's obvious that Pettis makes for the most exciting matchup, in my opinion. And probably, even though he hasn't earned the shot, I think he probably has the best shot of winning the fight, even though I don't think he will. He's a dangerous striker, and when you got a dangerous striker against anybody, anything can happen. So, no, he hasn't earned the shot.
I have to disagree. I think that he might not have had the wins at featherweight, but the wins he's had at lightweight have been impressive enough for him to earn a title shot, in my opinion. And I've said this before on this show, and it's not necessarily who you beat, it's how you beat them. And one of the going back to what you were saying about Weidman, you're saying he hasn't beat that many people, and why people saying he's got a bigger chance than Chael Sonnen. It's not the fact of who he's beat, it's how he's beat them. I mean, his win over Mark Munoz was super impressive. And the one weakness that Sonnen showed, and we've seen it numerous times, of course, is being caught to submissions from the bottom. when he's on top, and that's something Weidman hasn't shown. So if he can put Silva on his back, that's why he's such a threat, and I think that's why people are thinking he's got a bigger chance. And then going back to Anthony Pettis, what he did to Joe Lozon, and we've seen what Joe Lozon did when he fought Jim Miller. I mean, that fight was phenomenal. We've seen Donald Cerrone completely smash up the lightweight division. I mean, whoever he's gone in against, he's been competitive, apart from when he faced Nate Diaz, who he went 3 rounds with, but he was completely schooled. And then when he faced Anthony Pettis, I mean, he stopped him with a body kick. It was just unbelievable. So, yeah, I think he has earned it because of who he's beat and how he's beat them, especially his last 2 fights. And then going with his fight with Aldo, I actually think he's a legit threat to Aldo because, I'll be honest with you, I don't think Aldo's looked that great in the UFC since he's gone to featherweight. I mean, the only really super impressive win he had was against Chad Mendes when he knocked him out with that knee. And he grabbed the cage before he got that little bit of a break. And obviously it was a great finish. And Mendes has looked amazing since then. He struggled against Ken Flo. He struggled against Edgar. He struggled against Mark Hominick, especially in the last round. I'm telling you, if he goes into that 5th round against Anthony Pettis and he's tired, I think Pettis will knock him out. I mean, Pettis is an absolute beast, and I think he's one of the only guys who can go toe-to-toe and trade with Aldo and actually compete with him and maybe be even better than him at striking. So I think Pettis, 1, yes, he earns it, and 2, I think Pettis is going to be the next UFC featherweight champion.
I have to agree with Ray there, man. Anthony Pettis definitely is deserving of a title shot, and more than one weight class. Hell yeah. He is the real man. Tony Pettis, he ain't fucking around. He's sitting there smoking weed, coming up with new MMA moves to execute all fucking day, man. Showtime proved it. Actually, it'll take one more fight for me before I add him to my list of favorite fighters, but he's that close, all right? Just gotta see him one more time. If it's anything like the Cowboy Cerrone fight, it's gonna be awesome. He destroyed the Cowboy. He deconstructed Cerrone. He put the Cowboy out the pasture, so to speak. The only problem, he will be champion. I mean, come on. He's fucking doing he's leaping off the cage, kicking and kneeing people in the face. He whooped Bendo's ass. Everybody saw it. Those Predator dreadlocks were flying all over the cage. No problem. He can beat him again. The only thing that might get in the way is if he has another injury there. He was out for almost a year with an injury. If that happens again, he might lose to bums like Clay Guida, unfortunately. But if that doesn't happen, he is going to be the future champion. That is the word on the street.
As far as Zombie saying that Pettis hasn't earned it, I don't really agree with him. You know, you can't just look at that weight class to choose if he earns a title shot. I mean, Silva, if he moves up to 205, he deserves an immediate title shot. Who has he beaten at 205? Griffin and Bonner and Irvin. Well, that doesn't really deserve a title shot, but look what he did at this other weight class. The only thing I wish Pettis had done, I wish Pettis had fought Benson first and really solidified his spot at lightweight. You know, he's been talking about moving back up even before this fight. We have no idea what is going to happen other than Aldo saying if he wins this, he is going to move up. So if Aldo wins, he will move to 155. We don't know what Pettis will do if he wins or loses. We don't know what Aldo will do if he loses. And if Aldo moves up, it'll cause chaos at bantamweight as well, because Barao will probably move up to 145. Will he stick around for Cruz? We don't know. It's all getting pretty crazy, and it all revolves around this fight. So this fight has many implications. I'm really looking forward to it. I kind of think of this as a super fight. Pettis is easily one of the top 5 guys in the UFC who isn't currently a champion. He beat the current lightweight champion, Benson Henderson, at WEC 53, and that should have earned him the lightweight title, but instead he fought Clay Guida at the TUF 13 finale, losing that, but that's been the only fight he's lost this decade. He's on a roll. He demolished Lauzon and Cerrone. And, this is one of the tougher title fights I've ever had to call. But I think I'm leaning toward Aldo just because it's extremely difficult to pick against one of the greatest of all time. Definitely the greatest 145er we've ever seen. Moving from the greatest of all time to not doing so great. Rampage Jackson, his last couple years in the UFC were unmotivated. He was going back and forth with Dana. He's still throwing out barbs to the UFC to this minute. He joins Bellator and TNA Wrestling, which is a part of Spike TV, considering a move to heavyweight. He's doing all of this stuff. I really don't want to talk about his future in Bellator too deeply because we don't even know what weight class he's going to. But the only question I have is how much do you even care at this point? Because I'm finding it very hard to put too much attention toward Rampage Jackson and his latest escapade over to Viacom and Bellator.
I've got to be honest, I like Rampage. I like the Rampage that we used to watch. The Rampage who used to walk down to the cage or walk down to the ring in pride with his chain around his neck howling. That's the Rampage that I like. The first thought that came to my head when I saw that Rampage was considering heavyweight, the only reason he would consider moving up to heavyweight, in my opinion, is he can't be asked to make the cut anymore. If he can't be bothered to make the cut, then that tells me he's not going to be training properly, he's lost his motivation. We've seen it with the guy we're going to talk about next, in the next topic, which obviously I'll wait for that. But yeah, so if he moves to heavyweight, then that tells me not only you're asking whether we care at this point. My question would be, does Rampage care at this point? I can see why he wants to do TNA. We all know there's a lot of money in pro wrestling. TNA has come on leaps and bounds. I haven't watched pro wrestling for a long, long time, but I have watched TNA in the past, and it is exciting. There's some great guys in there. We've seen people do the switch before. We've seen MMA guys go to pro wrestling. We've seen pro wrestling guys come to MMA. I don't know how well the MMA guys have done in pro wrestling, but Brock Lesnar did good. Bobby Lashley's had some good fights. Batista won one fight. I don't think we'll be seeing him again soon. I haven't heard anything. I think he's older than Anderson Silva. And I think Anderson Silva's coming to 50 according to Ramsey, so I don't think he'll be fighting again. If he fights in Bellator, I'll be looking to see how he goes. I won't be watching anything he does in TNA. I'll be disappointed if he's at heavyweight, but if he is at heavyweight, I think he'll still do well, because I don't think the heavyweight division is that stacked over at Bellator, in my opinion. Yeah, that's it.
Look, Rampage is approaching approximately 53 years old last time I heard. And yes, he's only doing this because he is broke and in debt. It's ridiculous. He has roughly 17 to 19 children, as far as I have been able to determine. But at the same time, I have to agree with Ray. I love me some Rampage. I'm glad he's coming back in any sort of aspect of the sport. And I also think it's great to see more fighters coming out and just kind of blurring the line between MMA and professional wrestling, because that is a very, very thin line, which I talk about all the time. And so it's good to see somebody of Rampage's caliber just coming out there, like a Bob Sapp, like a King Mo, just admitting it. And him and King Mo are going to be tag team partners in this TNA wrestling promotion. And I think he's making his debut or something tonight on Impact Wrestling. I'll definitely be watching that shit. Glad you're back, Rampage, but let's be honest, he's got nothing left. Well, I don't know. What do you think, Brooks? You give a damn about Rampage?
Yeah, I do give a damn about Rampage. As both of you have said, I've always loved the old Rampage coming out, and doing what he did, knocking motherfuckers out. Going to Bellator, obviously it proves that, he doesn't have what it takes to compete in the UFC anymore, and I think it kind of makes Bellator look bad. But no, I'm excited to see him go over there. I'm excited to see him be successful again, because there's nobody over there aside from maybe King Mo that could compete with Rampage, and which is a fight that I would love to see, is Rampage and King Mo. I guess they've squashed their beef that they had previously or whatever, so I don't know if we'll see that, especially if Rampage goes up to heavyweight, which I would prefer that he stays down at light heavyweight. But no, I do care, and I'm looking forward to Rampage going to Bellator. I like watching, all the other shows, not just the UFC, and it's good to see some good fighters, go elsewhere and become, champs. I'm looking forward to John Fitch over at the World Series of Fighting, because, while he's not the most exciting guy, it'll be nice to see him win a championship. There's not really anybody over there that I could see stopping him either. But yeah, I say good on Rampage. He's going to go make some more money too, being in TNA and all. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, as far as Ray said, he makes a really good point. The fact that he's hinting about moving up to 265 means he might not, there's no reason for him to move up other than the fact that he just doesn't want to cut anymore, and the fact that he doesn't want to cut really points to a lack of motivation. I really don't follow wrestling much, but on Tuesday on the Word on the Street podcast, we actually were talking about it. We had a little roundtable going on over there as well, with shout-outs to Ross Finkelstein, Yeah the Truth, Ninja Larson, Wu-Tang, MMA mogul, we were talking about it, a lot of wrestling fans over there, and wrestling really, training for wrestling is an intense thing, so I don't know if we'll, really see him doing much at all, but Ray, I really like your point about, questioning his motivation, moving up to the heavies. And you did hint about our next topic, about a guy whose motivation has been questioned because he moved up a weight class, and that man is BJ Penn, fighting at welterweight. Recently said that his motivation was just lacking since having kids, but it is looking like BJ Penn is going to return at lightweight. He says he's mulling it over, and usually when a fighter says that, he's probably going to do it. Penn is my favorite fighter of all time, and this is news that makes me really happy. He had no business being at welterweight, even in the prime of his career. GSP was just too big a guy, and now, he's getting older. He was stepping into the cage against Rory Mack. I was hoping that because Rory had talked so much garbage, we would see Penn come out like a banshee, but Rory was just too much for him, too big. Penn moving back to lightweight. I really like the move. I would have been saddened if I heard he was coming back at 170. But the question I'm going to throw out there, do you think he should come back at all, or is he just simply too old? We don't know whether he's good enough to make a run at lightweight. Most would probably say no. But there are some pretty intriguing matchups. I was looking at Twitter. People were talking about, maybe him fighting Gilbert Melendez, maybe him fighting Gray Maynard. Both of those would be wars. I would love to see either of those fights. And as a Penn fan, I would love to see him challenge for the belt one more time, even though I think Bindo would be a real challenge for him. Ramses, what do you think about Penn and his potential comeback at lightweight?
Oh, holy shit with this comeback thing. Jake, I know he's your favorite fighter, but damn it, BJ Penn, man, you fool me once, shame on you. Look, he's not coming back for anything other than a paycheck.
He's 1-5-1 in his last 7 fights.
The last 2 fights, though, he had nothing left, and he kept claiming, I got the drive to fight again. I got the warrior spirit in me again. No, he didn't. After every single fight was over, the first thing out of his mouth was retirement. All right, I'm just not buying it anymore. He ran out of money again, so of course he's coming back for another fight. And I'm done with BJ, man. He's got nothing left. It's sad to see, but that's the truth, and that's you just have to let it go sometimes. Find some other source of revenue with BJ. I'm sorry. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm looking forward to him coming back down to lightweight. He had no place in the welterweight division. Those guys are beast up there. I mean, he won his first fight against Frankie Edgar. I don't know what the fuck the judges were doing in that fight. He should have been champ still. But after that, Edgar dominated him in the second fight. But, there's some really exciting fights out there for him at lightweight, like you guys were saying. I'd love to see him face Gilbert Melendez. That would be a hell of a war. But at the same time, he's like you guys have been saying, when he came back these past couple times, it's like he looked like shit. He wasn't doing anything. He looked like he wasn't prepared, wasn't really motivated, even though he's talking like he's motivated. I guess it all just depends. I'd like to see him come back for at least one more fight at lightweight. I'd like to see what he looks like when he does come back, see if he's still, got anything left in him at all, if he can win a fight. And, if so, then hell, I hope he makes a title run, and goes eventually to face whoever the champion is at the time. But, I think he should come back for at least one more fight just to see if he's got the drive, if he's prepared mentally, physically, everything else. And then if you can do it, then yeah.
I think the interesting thing here is BJ Penn coming back at lightweight, and this is something I said in the when we're talking about Rampage. If BJ Penn comes back at lightweight, then to me, BJ Penn is motivated again. BJ Penn at welterweight can't be bothered to cut to lightweight because we all know he's undersized at welterweight. We've seen it. I mean, Nick Diaz and Rory McDonald, they won that fight because of their size. It was Rory McDonald was too big and strong. Nick Diaz was too tall with his boxing. I mean, BJ Penn's an excellent boxer, but at the end of the day, Diaz's reach was too much for him, and that's because Diaz naturally fights at welterweight, where Penn naturally fights at lightweight. If Penn is motivated to get down to lightweight, then I think he's a threat at lightweight. And some of the fights you mentioned there, Jake mentioned, Gray Maynard, Gilbert Melendez. I mean, the potential in that division for him to face is unbelievable because the lightweight division. I mean, I've said this before as well. It's my favourite division. There's so much talent in that division, and there's so many fights for him in that division. I mean, you some of the fights you mentioned there already, but then you've got Jim Miller, Pat Healy. I think he coached Joe Lose on the show. Who wouldn't want to see BJ Penn versus Joe Lose? And that'd be a great fight as well. Two guys that, if BJ Penn's on it, two guys who bring it every time. I want to see if BJ Penn cuts to lightweight. In my opinion, he's motivated, and I think he's a threat, and I think he makes a run at the title. If he continues to stay at welterweight, then he continues to lose because he's too small.
Yeah, Penn is going to be a future UFC Hall of Famer, one of the greatest ever at lightweight, and it'll be interesting if he comes back to the weight class he made his fame in to see how well he would fare in that division. The man is currently 34 years old, which isn't really that old as far as MMA goes. Won't be turning 35 until December. And yeah, definitely at 5'9", the guy is overmatched at welterweight. I mean, you think, back when GSP was first getting into the UFC, the welterweight class was really dominated by guys who weren't that big, guys like Sarah, Hughes. But now you look at it, you think of the top guys at a welterweight, all of them are just too big for Penn, whether it's St. Pierre, whether it's Hendricks, Ellenberger, Campman, Condit. All of these guys are big guys who Penn really can't overmatch, but back at lightweight, it will be interesting to see how he does. And before we get into the fight announcements made this past week, let's get straight into the bonehead of the week. Alright, this week, my bonehead is the state of New York. Not because they did anything, but because they didn't do anything. The state of Connecticut became the 49th state in the United States to legalize MMA, make it sanctioned, make it so you can put on legal MMA bouts under a state commission, and also every province in Canada has legalized it, has sanctioned it. So you look at a map of North America now, of every state, every province in Canada. It is legal everywhere except for one place, and that is the state of New York. They could be making so much money. You have so many great guys from that area, whether it's John Jones, Chris Weidman, Matt Serra, Frankie Edgar. That is a booming area for MMA, and they do put on big events over in Atlantic City, and that's just money that's going straight to New Jersey. Why? For no other reason than the corrupt labor unions. The state of New York really showing its rotten side, because there is literally no other reason the UFC can't be in New York if it wasn't for these corrupt unions. And if we don't see MMA in the state of New York in the next year or two, they're just going to keep losing out on millions, if not billions, of tax dollars. Ramses?
My bonehead of the week is without a doubt Paulo Thiago. And why? Because he signed the dotted line to fight against Kelvin Gastelum, a friend of mine, one of the best breakout fighters in the UFC at this point. All right, won the Ultimate Fighter tournament this year. It's all over for Paulo Thiago. His Brazilian Special Forces training, it ain't gonna help him. You know why? Because Kelvin Gastelum is a bail bondsman from New Mexico. All right, Paulo Thiago. They give him a gun, a machine gun, and the authority of the government behind him to get what he wants. Kelvin Gastelum just shows up at your fucking door unarmed and says, you give me this fucking money or you're not gonna walk tomorrow. That's the real shit. Paulo Thiago, you shouldn't have done it. You are the bonehead of the week. That's the word on the street. What's up, Ray?
My bonehead is one of the strangest characters on Top Brazil 2. I've followed the season. It's been a fantastic season. I think much better than the first season. There's been loads of crazy antics in the house, which has been fun to watch. But there's this guy, Ninja. The guy is an absolute dickhead. He completely loves himself. He comes in, I can speak all these languages, I'm very marketable, the UFC need people like me going forward. He's on Team Verdum. Now, I think it's fair to say, I think most of us agree, Verdum is one of the one of the greats in the heavyweight division. I mean, this is a guy who submitted Fedor in 30 seconds. That's no joke. So, Verdum has been there and done it. So if Verdum says you do this, you're training with him, you bloody do it. Verdum has proven what works. This guy knows better than Verdum. This guy thinks Verdum's a bum. He says he's just a big fat bum. That's what he was saying. Anyway, so after acting like a dick, Verdum kicks him out of the team. So instead of him being part of Team Verdum, he's not part of Team Nagaro because they don't want him. He's just Team Ninja, just his own team. And what made it funny, what backfired on him, is when they had the coaches challenge. And as we all know, with the coaches challenge, whichever coach wins, the coach wins 10 grand, and there's 10 grand split between his team. Guess which team won, and guess who didn't get a split? Because Team Ninja are not part of Team Verdum. So for me, you get given such a big opportunity like this. Yeah, you lost your fight, but it doesn't matter. You get your head down, you train, you show your attitude, you show yourself to be a hard worker. And he could have come away with about $2,000, which I know some of these guys in Brazil, they're pretty poor, so that would have been a lot of money for him. But he's such a dick, and he's acted like such a dick throughout the whole season. So for that reason, Ninja from Top Brazil 2 is my bonehead of the week. Brox?
My bonehead of the week is Joe Silva. He fucked up the UFC on Fox Sports 1-2 card. It's in Indianapolis, closest fights to my home in a while here in Ohio. I'm trying to get tickets to go, and this guy just can't make a fucking match that I could give a shit less about. Carlos Condit, Martin Kampmann, I've already seen that. Hopefully, it's better than the last time they fought. I wanted to see Cerrone versus Pat Healy. He gives us RDA instead. The fights I'm looking most forward to is the female fight between McMahon and Kaufman, but who knows what'll happen there. They're both really strong wrestlers. It could just turn into a fucking wrestling match. It just pisses me off. They don't ever have cards near me. Joe Silva fucks it up when they do, and that's why Joe Silva's the bonehead of the week.
These are all pretty good ones, but I guess I gotta go with Ninja from Tough Brazil 2. I haven't really watched the season, but that sounds pretty boneheaded, and it sounded like he got what was coming to him, so mine will go to the Ninja, and not Ninja Larson, regular freak winner of Word on the Street. Shout out to our boy, Ninja Larson, who's not a bonehead.
I guess I have to go with my bonehead, the state of New York. It's just getting ridiculous right now, but it goes to show you that corruption exists in every organization, at even the highest levels of even government. So you're damn right it plays its part in the economics and the politics of MMA. Just a little micro example here. But yeah, state of New York, get your shit together, cocksuckers.
I'm following Ramses. I mean, it's an absolute joke. Why is MMA not legalised in the state of New York? We all know how exciting it is. We also know how safe it is. It's all to do with the fact that it's always been a boxing thing. That's what it is, in my opinion. But yeah, they just need to do it now. Just stop pissing around and just legalise MMA in New York. We want to see, the fastest growing sport in the world in one of the biggest cities in the world, or biggest states in the world. So yeah, it needs to be done now.
I'm going to go ahead and agree with you guys on New York. There really isn't much else to say about it. Every other state is legal. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Whatever, corruption, all that. Just get it done. It's stupid. It's obvious. You're the only state. It doesn't make any sense. Obviously, there's something going on that everybody knows about. So just get it over with already.
Yeah, and if you haven't read up on it yet, it is the culinary union that is blocking the UFC. They're blocking MMA's move into New York, but they're only doing it because of the Fertitta brothers and the fact that the Fertitta brothers decide not to use their union for their casinos, the station casinos, and because of that, they banned against them like a bunch of corrupt idiots, and you know who's even worse than them? The politicians who listen to them. We will eventually see it in New York. These culinary union people are nothing but scum. And once we get it legalized in that state, I probably won't go, but I have a lot of friends in New York, including the Truth, including Ross Finkelstein, who I'm sure will be glad to see it finally. Man, we have a lot of fights announced to talk about. 5 of them in particular. The first one I want to talk about, though, we'll start off. All of them are fights in August too. We'll start off with the 2 UFC 163 announcements. That's going to be August 3rd, I believe, in Rio. The first one, Robert Drysdale signing with the UFC, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach. I believe Forrest Griffin is a black belt under him. I think he trains with Frank Mir as well over in Las Vegas. Signs with the UFC, undefeated so far, winning almost all his fights, if not all his fights, by submission. He's going to fight Ednaldo Rivera at UFC 163. I really don't know enough about either guy to say who will win the fight, but the question I want to ask, how far do you think Robert Drysdale moves up the UFC ranks? Personally, I think the current top 10 UFC heavies aren't looking that deep. Drysdale might be able to crack it, but once he gets up there with guys like Junior, Overeem, Kane, Cormier, if he stays at the heavyweights, I don't think he'll be able to compete. Will he be able to compete with guys like Struve, Nilsson, Miocic, Brown, Bigfoot? If he can get over his next 2 fights, we'll probably see. And this is starting with Ramses.
Yeah, I've heard of Robert Drysdale. I've heard his name, never seen him fight, don't know anything about him. But I know much less about his opponent, Ednaldo Oliveira.
Sorry to be a pain. Robert Drysdale's light heavyweight, as far as I know.
Like I said, I don't know a damn thing about him.
Yeah, he might act. I thought he was a heavyweight. That shows. Yeah, it shows you how much I really know about the guy.
Yeah, he's 205.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but I don't know much. I know like Ednaldo Oliveira. I don't know a damn thing about him, so it sounds like a layup for me. Robert Drysdale all the way, but that's all I got to say, man. Who the hell are these people, Brooks?
Yeah, basically, I think that Oliveira is being brought in as a sacrificial lamb for Drysdale's debut, at least. But as far as making it up the ranks, I don't see it happening. I mean, he hasn't really fought a lot, especially against any notable competition that I can see anyway. So, I mean, I'm not sure exactly how he's going to perform against some of those top 10 guys. But if anybody with a submission defense, and that's a good wrestler, a good striker, I think he's going to have major problems with someone like Rashad Evans or Nogueira. Those kind of guys, he's not going to get up there with those guys. I don't think. I think that he'll be just outside the top 10. Hopefully, he comes in and gives us some good submissions to watch. That way we have some entertainment value there. But we've seen some other great jiu-jitsu guys come in and not be able to do too much. Like who's Vinny Magalhaes or whatever. He comes in. He's a light heavyweight. He's not going to be able to compete with those guys, and he's a great grappler. But I think he was supposed to be on one of the former seasons of The Ultimate Fighter, but they had done some physical, and he had something fucked up with his head or something, so he wasn't able to make it.
Was he the guy that had the herpes?
I'm not sure if it was herpes. It probably was, but they probably kept that shit under wraps.
I'm sorry. Just a little trivia here. I'm sure somebody knows. They kicked someone out of Tough because they even showed it on the show. He had like some sort of facial herpes. It wasn't him though.
I don't think it was him. He wasn't even.
No.
Okay,
he wasn't even on the show. He was supposed to be on the show, and then they did the physical beforehand, and he wasn't able to be on because they found something. But I'm glad he got past that. I'm glad because I do enjoy some great grappling matches, and some grappling exchanges. So hopefully he comes in and gives us some nice submission game to watch at least. But as far as hanging with the top 10, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, sorry to mix that up. The only reason I didn't look him up, we've actually had him on the MMA podcast, and I guess he is a big guy, 6'3", a pretty beefy dude. So I just assumed he was a heavyweight. But no, I'm looking now. He actually was a tough coach on season 8 for Team Mir. The guy's 6-0, all by first round submission. 3 fights in the AFC, 3 fights in Legacy Fighting Championship. So the guys looked impressive, and I do agree with you, Brooks, that they're probably bringing in this Oliveira guy to be a sacrificial lamb, because Drysdale, he is pretty well known in the MMA world. He trains guys like I mentioned, Forrest Griffin, Dan Hardy, James McSweeney, and as far as him cracking the top 10 of the light heavies, I don't know. That's a much deeper division than the heavies. 2 light heavyweights I do know a lot more about, though. Lyoto Machida and Phil Davis. Yeah.
I haven't given my opinion yet.
Oh, you didn't?
I was after Brooks.
Oh, well, fuck me. Sorry, buddy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of hype on Robert Drysdale. Like you say, he's known for his BJJ. He's 6-0, like you said. The longest fight he's had so far is 2 minutes 54. There's 6 names on his account, on his record. They're not really worth shouting out. There's only 2 names that I recognise, but they're not standout guys. One of them was on Tough 3. One of them was just a name I know that I've seen, but I've not really seen many of his fights. The guy he's facing isn't very good at all. That Oliveira, he has fought in the UFC if it's the right one. And from what I remember, he was a training partner of Junior Dos Santos. And he fought in Brazil against Gabriel Gonzaga, and Gonzaga submitted him with a rear naked choke, and it was a really, really poor fight. He looked awful. I think this fight will last a couple of minutes, and he'll get an impressive submission. It'll be an armbar or some kind of choke. And I think he'll do well. He'll have some good wins, but once he comes up against someone with good takedown defence and who can strike, that's when he's going to struggle. That's what you tend to find with the BJJ. Brooks Bailey said it with Vinny Magalhães. Vinny's great once you get him on the ground, and we've seen what Igor went in for a takedown, which was a bit dumb. But once you put him up against someone who can, even when he faced Phil Davis, who's got good takedown defence and not really necessarily a good boxer, but he couldn't hang with that. So once Drysdale faced someone with good takedown defence and who can box, then I think he'll struggle. But he'll be just on the outside of the top 10, but he'll struggle once he reaches the top 10.
Yeah, sorry about skipping you there, buddy. And I was getting to Lyoto Machida and Phil Davis. They're also going to be fighting probably a little further up the card than Drysdale and Oliveira. Pardon me, my throat's fucking horrible today. At UFC 163, Lyoto Machida is pretty widely thought of as one of the top contenders in the light heavyweight division, so this is a nice break for Phil Davis, who had been fighting a lot of people that people were thinking were below his caliber of light heavyweight, guys like Wagner Prado. You definitely got a significant step up in Vinny Magalhães, but I don't know if he necessarily was a top 10 guy like Davis was at the time. But Davis will take on Lyoto Machida in a fight that probably has a lot of bearing in the light heavyweight title picture. What are your early thoughts on the fight? I'm leaning heavy toward Machida. What do you think, Brooks?
Yeah, I'm also heavily leaning with Machida here. I think this is pretty much as bad of a matchup as it can get for Phil. Machida's got great takedown defense. The striking's better. Davis did look much improved, with some boxing, but he's not on the Machida level, that's for sure. I think Machida can make a fight pretty damn boring if he's playing safe, but he's also able to knock people out at the same time. But I think he might be a little more tentative with the striking since Phil's such a great wrestler. He don't want to commit too much, maybe be worried about the takedown. But I think basically this is just going to go, I don't know if it's a 5-round fight or a 3-round fight, but if it's either way, I just see Machida dominating the whole time with that in-and-out striking game that he's got, and just running it all the way up and winning a decision. Because like I said, this is just a horrible matchup for Phil here.
I think this is a horrible matchup for Phil as well. There's no way. We seen in the last game that Phil decided to box with Vinny Magalhães. There's no way he can do that with Machida because Machida's in and out striking, and his kicks is just on a whole of the level to Phil Davis. Davis will obviously then look to try and take Machida down. We've seen there's been good wrestlers in there that have not been able to take Machida down because Machida's takedown defense is that good. And even if he has gone down, he's one of these guys who gets straight back to his feet. I think Machida will be cautious, but once he tends to land and once he finds an opening, this guy is a finisher. And it seems to be when he first won the UFC, and he faced the lower tier of the division, he was winning, but he was winning unimpressively. Once he stepped up and started facing the tougher guys, which is normally it's the other way around, he comes in and he starts knocking these people out. I mean, we've seen him knock out the likes of Rashad Evans, we've seen him knock out Randy Couture, and they're not just and Ryan Bader, obviously, they're not just knockouts, they're clean. Like, there's some beautiful techniques he uses. And, I mean, Machida and Evans and Bader were out. There was no coming back for them, where with Couture, he might not have been knocked out cold, but the kick was so good, there was no way Couture was coming back. So, yeah, I think he'll get a finish. I think he'll knock Phil Davis out. I don't know what round, but I think he'll knock Davis out. I think Davis is good. I think Davis is pretty boring to watch, in my opinion, but Machida's a whole of a level above Davis.
Well, I got the fight even because to me these guys are both bums, all right? Phil Davis and Machida, they didn't look too good in their last ones. They showed me nothing that impressed me or nothing that said I still want to be here. Phil Davis, obviously Vinny Magalhães, he was obviously poisoned or something. Maybe they paid him off. I don't know what they had on him. But that fight was garbage with Phil Davis, and I didn't see anything impressive I didn't see any. Phil Davis couldn't knock out Vinny. I don't see him knocking out Machida. But then again, Machida couldn't knock out his last opponent. I don't see him knocking out Phil Davis anymore. I think they're just going to negate each other into one of the most boring piece of shit fights we have ever seen. That's my guess.
Yeah, the only reason I sort of side with you there, we've seen a lot of horrible fights. Dan versus Lyoto comes to mind. Lyoto versus Rampage comes to mind, that were billed as just these, this is going to be a war, this is going to be crazy, and Lyoto puts us to sleep. Davis has got to be real aggressive to make this an interesting fight. He's not going to be real aggressive because a real aggressive fighter gets knocked out by Lyoto. So we're going to see a lot of plotting. Bring a pillow for this one, ladies and gentlemen. All right, moving to UFC on Fox Sports 1, which this is going to get really messed up and confusing once I'm talking about UFC Fox Sports 2-6 and UFC Fox Sports 1-10 and 3-1. It's going to get messed up. But this is UFC on Fox Sports 1, and it will be headlined by Shogun Rua and Chael Sonnen. Little Nog drops out of his UFC 151 fight against Shogun. Pardon me. And Chael Sonnen denied a visa to Canada, so he couldn't make it to UFC 161. So instead, they're going to fight August 17th at UFC on Fox Sports in Boston. What do you think about Shogun versus Sonnen, Ray?
Firstly, I love to correct you. It wasn't 151, it was 161, just because I'm being awful.
Sorry, I'm busy coughing and trying to swallow down as many cough drops as I can in between segments to apparently no avail.
And it's made you go back in time. I'll tell you what, there's some good cough drops.
I wish there are hulls. They have no good drugs in them.
The UFC 151 was the card that never happened, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. That would have been Jones versus Hendo, and instead, it was the only canceled card in UFC history.
It's the ghost card.
The ghost card. Okay, Chael Sonnen versus Shogun. I think this is a great matchup. I'm looking forward to this fight. Shogun, I like watching Shogun fight. He's very aggressive. He's exciting. He's going to be going every time Sonnen goes for a takedown. He's going to be looking to knock Sonnen out. We've seen what Sonnen can do. Sonnen is again very aggressive. He'll put pressure on Shogun. He won't want to stand with Shogun, even though he's capable of standing with Shogun because we've seen that with Anderson Silva. But he'll want to get Shogun down. Shogun's a threat off his back. I've seen Shogun fight high-level wrestlers and submit high-level wrestlers. I think this is a great fight, and my thoughts, and I know I'm going to be hated for this, but I think Shogun will win. He'll either knock Sonnen out or he'll submit him off his back.
Oh, Ray. Oh, Jesus, forgive him, for he knows not what he says. This fight is all over for Shogun, man. It's not even going to be close. Because Shogun is a one-dimensional fighter, right? He's only got one game plan. He's going to slug away. Chael Sonnen is not going to, he never has, just gotten into one of those goddamn slugfests with anybody. We're not going to see it here. All right? He's going to take this man down. And yeah, Shogun is going to try to stop the takedown, but basically Shogun's knees, they've all gone to hell. He's had surgery multiple times on both of them. The same problem with Anderson. That's why, Chael's coming in for the takedown. You don't see too many knees or flying knee attempts. It's just not going to happen. Shogun doesn't stand a chance. He is approaching bum status, in my opinion. Just take a look at his last fight. Meanwhile, Chael Sonnen, he's only been fighting the best of the best his last 2 fights. Don't underestimate him. He got his ass whipped by John Jones. It wasn't an early stoppage, but, it was a one-sided fight, but that was against John Jones. Someone like a Shogun Hua, man, oh, fuck, he's pissing his pants. Shogun, man, I'm sorry. It's all over Maury. That's the word on the street.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Ramses. If this was the Shogun, Pride FC Shogun, pre-fucking 40 knee surgery Shogun, I think he would have the advantage. But Chael Sonnen, like you said, he's not going to stand and trade with Shogun. He's not going to, be stupid about it. He's going to come in. He's going to get this fight to the ground. Shogun's had problems with his cardio in the past. If this is the headliner, I'm assuming it's a 5-rounder. Chael Sonnen's going to out-cardio him, out-wrestle him, and just push the pace the whole time. He's going to apply the constant pressure, and Shogun doesn't have much of a chance, if you ask me. And, at least he gets a training camp in. I think that the Canadians kind of had some sympathy for Shogun going into this one and not let Chael get accepted into Canada there. So, but he better do something to improve, because he just hasn't looked the same as he did back in Pride FC. So I got Chael Sonnen winning this fight, and probably pretty clearly just dominating this fight.
Yeah, I won't cue up the music, but my stat of the day for tonight's show is Shogun Hua's takedown defense under 40%. You can't have a takedown defense under 40% and expect to make anything happen against Chael Sonnen unless, like Ray mentioned, you submit him off his back. I don't think Shogun is a good enough BJJ artist to sub Chael on his back. Chael has shown that weakness in the past, but it's a weakness. He looks like he's shored up. Silva did catch him with it, but Silva is an animal off his back. He does have a few submissions under his belt, and I would say is probably more of a submission artist than Shogun Hua. Stylistically, I do favor Sonnen a lot, and I'm trying to look at it with a place of non-bias, but I think the wrestling style that Sonnen brings to the table is really not a good story for Shogun Hua. So they're going to headline UFC on Fox Sports 1-1 in what will be a 5-round fight. Also, the same month, pardon for coughing, man. My throat is fucked. 11 days later, UFC on Fox Sports 1-2. Martin Kampmann and Carlos Condit are going to be fighting also in a 5-round fight, a rematch in the welterweight division. Who you got? I'm leaning a little bit toward Condit, but it could go either way. This is going to be, in my opinion, a little closer a fight than Hua Sonnen. Ramses, what do you think about Kampmann versus Condit?
Carlos Condit's going to win this one. He's going to get back in the goddamn win column. Because this, not only are they going to let him win the fight, he doesn't have to worry about a flash knockout. That Hendricks fight was scary to anybody. I'm sorry. It's a miracle that he didn't get his ass knocked out. But Carlos Condit is one of the greatest fighters in the division. Obviously, he had to he had to put GSP over. We all saw what we saw, right? That was some bullshit. He had to let GSP win for obvious monetary reasons. But now, this is like a who gives a shit kind of fight, so he is gonna dominate. He's gonna let loose, and he's gonna get revenge for the shit they've done to him. That's what I think, anyway. What about you guys?
Brooks?
Sorry about that. Yeah, basically, this isn't a fight that I'm necessarily looking forward to, as I already stated. But I think I think Condit has the advantage going into it. After Condit fought Nick Diaz, I know a lot of people hated that fight and hated his game plan and whatever else, But, he showed that he can game plan perfectly against, some really, really tough fighters. And I think that he's going to come in and he's going to have a great game plan heading into the fight. I just think that it's going to go all the way again to a decision. I don't see a finish happening with this fight. I believe Martin won the first fight. I just think, even then, I'm not sure if people said that was a good fight. I don't even really remember that fight too much. I just know that I wasn't too happy with the fight. I wasn't too impressed, or it didn't excite me that much. But I think Carlos Condit's going to win this time, and it's just going to go to a decision. It'll be a close fight, but I think game planning is going to be the big thing here, and Carlos is going to come in with a better game plan.
My thoughts are, one, I think this will be a great fight. I remember their first fight, and their first fight was epic. It really was a close fight. It was Carlos Condit's debut as well. A lot of people felt that Condit won, even though Cameron got the decision. It was a fantastic fight. And then we've got the fact it's 5 rounds, that changes the fight. I mean, these two fought at quite a fast pace. I know Jay's not with us on the show today, but I also know this is his favourite division, so I'm sure he's pretty excited for this fight. I think Condit will win. I think it will be really exciting to watch. I think it'll be back and forth. Condit, I don't think Cameron will finish Condit, but Condit's definitely capable of finishing Cameron, because when he starts throwing his flying knees and we've seen him head kick GSP and then he knocked GSP out, I could see Condit getting a finish, especially over 5 rounds. But I will go for Condit to win by decision. But I think I'm sure it will fight of the night last time. I'm sure it will fight of the night this time.
Both of these guys have proven that they not only have the power to knock you out, God damn it, or submit you, but they have iron chins as well. Moving on to the last fight announced, this is also going to be on the Condit Campman card. Cerrone versus Dos Anjos. What are your early thoughts on that one, Brooks?
I wanted to see Cerrone against Pat Healy. I thought that was stylistically the matchup that would have been a lot better. This fight, it could probably be a pretty good fight too, but such a hard fight to pick too, because RDA's been on such a roll lately. He's just been going through everybody. I thought he actually lost the fight to Evan Dunham, but it wasn't far fetched enough for me to complain about, I guess. But Rafael Dos Anjos' Muay Thai is really good. Cerrone's got great kickboxing. I really don't know who to go with this. I think they both got great ground games. I guess I'll go with Cerrone. He hasn't looked the greatest lately, but I think when it comes down to it, I do think he is a level above RDA, and I think he'll get a decision win in this one too.
Ah, Jesus. I gotta say, actually it was Ray's turn. Oh, wow.
Sorry, I thought it was. I didn't want to jump in. I really like Donald Cerrone. I don't think RDA won the last fight. I agree with Brooks. I think Evan Dunham won. When they called the decision, I was surprised. I think it will be a good fight. I'll be surprised if Cerrone loses. I think Cerrone is certainly a more exciting fighter to watch of the two. He's a guy who tends to finish his opponents. I mean, he didn't finish KJ Noons, but he did brutalise KJ Noons. And KJ Noons is a good fighter. I think Cerrone gets a win. I think it'll be a good fight as well, to be honest with you. I think it's... if I was living in that area, I'd be looking forward to going to watch that event.
Yeah. I don't really care who wins the Cerrone versus Rafael Dos Anjos fight, but I do care to watch it, if that makes sense. Cerrone versus KJ Noons, man, that was a good, impressive performance. Glad to see he's coming back so soon. He had the fire back in that last fight. And that's impressive because of how badly Showtime whooped his ass in the last one. So I think he'll take this one, but I'm just going to watch it just for the entertainment, honestly.
Cerrone is the favorite fighter of our buddy Chris. And yeah, I do agree with you guys. I'm leaning towards Cerrone. Jesus Christ.
Wow, son.
Yeah, dude. I like literally can't say a sentence or two without my throat just getting tickly as shit.
You got that.
Really
you
weird.
got that 9/11 cough.
Yeah, dude. I don't know what it was. I was just at an elementary school earlier for my aunt, who was a teacher for like 37 years. She's retiring. She was having some retirement party. Probably like honestly, the party was in an elementary school cafeteria.
Oh, no.
That place
Yep.
is so riddled with germs, dude. I probably
You gotta have the
probably
Purell
got-
with you at all
yeah,
times, man.
dude,
That's what I do.
Yeah, so I caught fucking something from one of those little cookie snatchers. But Donald Cerrone, I always like to say about him, he's got a giant toolbox, and he either can break out the kickboxing or jiu-jitsu against Dos Anjos, and I am leaning toward him. Thankfully, thank fucking God, I'm not hosting Guess That Tweet this week. It's all you, Ramses. So I'm gonna stop talking, and I'm gonna start like trying to chew up 10 lozenges at a time. I don't know what I'm gonna do about this cough. I got the MMA podcast tomorrow and Word on the Street tonight. I'm tired, Ramses.
You better make it through tonight, cocksucker. Let's do Guess That Tweet, people. Hopefully you're all ready. I do have some tough ones. I gotta say, you guys are probably fucked on this one. But, obviously, Brooks, you just guess who tweeted it. Now, the first tweet, of course, I'll just get right to it. The tweet is, quote, "Oh, I'm single and I'm rich, and I've got a set of six-pack abs that will blow your mind." Was it John Cholish, John McGuire, War Machine, a.k.a. John Copenhaver, or John Hathaway?
John McGuire is a part of the One MMA family. I've been following him on Twitter. If you aren't following him on Twitter too, you should. He's really funny. And yeah, that's a funny tweet. So I'll go with John McGuire. Fuck it.
I'm gonna go with. I gotta agree here with you, Jake. I'm gonna go with John McGuire.
I was going to go with McGuire as well, but I don't want to copy. So what I know is it was War Machine, it was John Cholish. It's not going to be him because I don't even know who he is really. And what was the other one, Ramses?
John Hathaway.
I don't think Hathaway doesn't come across as being funny, so I'll go with War Machine. He's a bit controversial out there. I'll go with War Machine.
Mm-hmm. Well, people, yeah, John Cholish is that guy that just quit the UFC because he's that Wall Street banker or whatever. So I thought that would throw you off, but it was not John Cholish. It was not Johnny Hathaway. And it was not War Machine, a.k.a. Jonathan Copenhagen. It was John McGuire. John McGuire.
Oh, good.
Point to me and Brooks.
That was kind of a layup question, though, I gotta say. That was the warm-up. You guys ready to feel the heat, as Vitor Belfort says?
Let's do it.
Second tweet is, quote, "Decided to camp, and before we set up, question number 1, do you think I can get Wi-Fi out here? What the fuck?" Was it Yves Edwards, Joe Lozon, Justin Edwards, or Vinny Magalhães?
I'll go with. I want to know if they didn't get Wi-Fi, how did they tweet? But I'll go with Yves Edwards.
Bro.
I gotta go with Vinny Magalhães in this one. Not sure.
Alright, we got Vinny. We have... Who else again?
I'll read them again. Yves Edwards, Joe Lozon, Justin Edwards, or Vinny Magalhães.
Yves and Vinny are your boys, and you picked your boy last time, so I think you're trying to lead us onto that one. Between Lauzon and Edwards, Lauzon seems like somebody a lot easier to just think up off the top of your head, so I'll go with Edwards.
Wait, which Edwards did you finally go with? Just so there's no confusion.
Oh yeah, sorry, Justin Edwards. I didn't even think there were two different Edwards.
Yes, that was the whole throw-off that I was going for on that one. It was not Joe Lozon. It was not Vinny Magalhães. Pay attention to that pronunciation. You've all gotten it wrong, people. It was not Joe Lozon, not Vinny Magalhães, not Yves Edwards. It was Justin Edwards.
Yeah. Woo.
I'm assuming you're winning from that response, Jake.
Woo.
2 points for Jake, 1 point for Brooks. Ray, so far nothing, but hopefully we'll turn that around here with the third tweet, which reads, quote, 1 year ago today was my first official UFC weigh-in. Can't ask for anything more. Love my job. And it's a picture attached of him weighing in. Was it Chris Clements, Jorge Lopez, Justin Edwards, or Joe Proctor?
I'm trying to think. Whoever it is, me and him are like blood brothers because a year ago today was our first podcast. I'm trying to think who's only been around for about a year. Shit, I really can't place when any of those guys started. Proctor, I think, was after Tough Live. It was Proctor, Justin Edwards, and who else?
Chris Clements and Jorge Lopez.
I think Clemens has been around for a while. I'll go with Lopez.
I'm gonna go with Chris Clements in this one. I think that he probably debuted around a year ago.
Yeah, he is really young.
I'm going to go with Joe Proctor because I'm pretty sure this is around the time that Tough Life finished, and of course he fought on the Tough Life finale. So for that reason, I'm going to go with Joe Proctor.
And it was not Justin Edwards. It was not Jorge Lopez. And it was not Chris Clements. It was Joe Proctor.
Woohoo!
Boo!
Count back here. Hell yeah, people. Good job, good job. Tweet number 4. This one is, quote, great down day at the beach with Jake Hune. Great down day at the beach with Jake Hune. Was it Tyron Woodley, Josh Salmon, Sean Jordan, or Jeff Monson?
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't say Connor Hune because I would have gone. I really don't know who hangs with Hune. Give me the third guy you said. I really have no idea who it would be.
Choices were.
You're doing Snake.
Oh yeah.
Oh well, F you, Ray. I do what I want. I'll go with the third guy.
Who are the guys?
The choices are Tyron Woodley, Josh Salmon, Sean Jordan, or Jeff Monson.
I'll go with Josh Salmon. Brooks?
I gotta go with Tyron Woodley in this one. Just on the name here.
Give me the third guy.
Sean Jordan.
Yeah.
It was not Josh Salmon. It was not Jeff Monson. And it was not Tyron Woodley. It was Sean Jordan.
Always go with the third guy, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm-hmm. Nice job, Jake, with 3 points. We're at question number 5, but I believe that is the game, isn't it? Should we do the last one just for just as a goof? Congratulations,
yeah,
Jake. Congratulations.
Yeah.
We'll let you have your victory speech after this last question. All right, one more tweet for you guys. Quote, this one's interesting. It's possible to love your country but hate the government. 24 years ago today, a man stood his ground against oppression. And he tweeted a picture of that one Chinese dude standing in front of the tanks at Tiananmen Square or whatever the hell it was. Was it Eddie Bravo, Joe Rogan, Tim Kennedy, or Colton Smith?
I'll go with Eddie Bravo.
I'm gonna go with Eddie Bravo also.
I'm going to go with Joe Rogan.
Interesting, people. Because it was not Colton Smith, it was not Joe Rogan, it was not Eddie Bravo, it was Tim Kennedy. That actually, looks like I got the last point there. Suckers. damn right, people. Hell yeah. And, but, of course, the belt did go to Jake. Thank you all for playing. Jake, your show, your victory speech. And I just wanted, anybody listening, it was not rigged. I can tell you that. I'd be the first one to call bullshit. Jake, what's up?
Yo, man, my 11th title defense, getting up there with Anderson Silva, my 12th victory, 12th championship, hang this belt up on the wall with the other 11, but, because it's been a year since the first episode, I thank the listeners all the time, and they really are the ones that keep it going, but, the other group of people who keep it going, who I gotta thank just as much, are the people I do this show with: Ray, Ramses, Chris, Brooks, Jay, Dave, Patrick, Eric. You all are some cool motherfuckers. Mike from MMA Valor. Every single person we've had on to both the Roundtable and the MMA podcast. We've sort of started our own MMA podcasting family, and you guys are all some cool motherfuckers to talk to both on and off the air. And I really couldn't have done it without you guys. So kisses and hugs.
You're welcome, man, and
cool
congratulations! Congratulations, at the MMA podcast 1 year anniversary, the birthday or whatever the hell it is. Best MMA podcast. As far as mainstream goes, I will claim the best underground. But that's only because I have Jake helping my ass out. So yeah, man, only good things. Congratulations.
Hell yeah, it's been a fun year. You can look it up. On the first year anniversary, you're supposed to send gold jewelry. So Skype me, and I'll tell you where to send me all the gold jewelry to congratulate our podcast on its first year. And we will get to UFC on Fuel, Big Nog versus Verdum. Before we talk about the card itself, we got to talk about Tough Brazil 2, because Tough Brazil 2, we are seeing the finale for that in the co-main event. I've had sort of a whirlwind last few months, followed by an internship in Chicago. I haven't slept in my bed for a year, so I'm sort of out of the loop when it comes to a lot of things, and unfortunately Tough Brazil has been one of them. I haven't caught a second of this season, but I know, Ray, you've been watching it. I'm not sure about Ramses and Brooks, but Ray, tell us a little bit about Tough Brazil 2 and how much you watched of it.
Tough Brazil 2 has been really good. I go onto the UFC website and watch it on there with English subtitles. So I've shown everything they've posted, but unfortunately they haven't posted the episode 12 yet. Obviously, I already know he's in the final, because when you do this kind of thing, when you follow MMA the way we do, you see the news anyway. I'm disappointed they didn't post episode 12 straight away, really. But yeah, so I've watched it from 1 to 11. Overall, it's been a great season. I think this has been one of probably the best season I've ever seen for pranks. I know we had the Bisbin Miller season, which was pretty good, but I mean, this season has been absolutely mental. They actually kidnapped one of the coaches and tied him.
MMA mental. Those are really late, and I'm embarrassed. Sorry, go ahead.
They actually got one of the coaches and tied him to the tree, which was so funny because he looked really pissed off. Yeah, I'll tell you what, what these guys have been doing. I mean, and probably one of the worst ones is not even the guys in the house; it's the bloody coaches. Verdum's terrible. They actually got fireworks and started firing them at each other.
Is he like Roy Nelson terrible?
No, I mean, when I say terrible, I mean he's terrible for the pranks. I mean, he's a great coach and he's good on the show, and he doesn't hold back with if he doesn't like somebody. But yeah, and I think on the very first episode, one of the guys who's actually in the finale, he actually went and got all the beds off, all the mattresses, because they've got a big lake at the bottom of where they're living, and he trashed all the mattresses. So they've all been sleeping on bed bases with no mattresses for the whole time they've been there. They've all been moaning about aching backs and stuff. I mean, it's been a really, really good season. I think the finale is going to be good. Unfortunately, one of the guys who made the finale broke his hand, so he's had to pull out, which is ironic because that happened in Tough Brazil 1 as well, with one of the guys pulling out. But the guy who's really impressed me on the show, who's in the final, is William Macario. He reminds me of Melvin Gillard. He's very athletic. He's black. He's got an amazing takedown defense, and he's got power in his hands. Now, I haven't seen his semi-final win yet, but I know I know the result, obviously. So in the quarterfinal and the semi-final, and this is at the stage of the house where the fight should be getting tougher. he won both fights with round 1 knockout. And I know in the quarterfinal that I was watching, he literally had the guy up against the cage, and the guy was trying to run away because he was being that swarm with striking, and he just caught him bang on the button and knocked him out. It was just amazing to watch. Yeah, I'm rooting for him to win. He's impressed the hell out of me. An overall brilliant season, and much better than the first season of Tough Brazil, in my opinion. And I think more so for the antics inside the house and the pranks rather than the fights.
Nice. I was gonna ask where the fuck I could even watch Tough Brazil, but you said it's on the UFC.com just website.
I'll send you a link, Ramses. I've got a link saved. I'll send it to you.
Awesome, and I'll actually check it out because I can understand Brazilian. I can't speak it fluently, but it makes sense to me. But the problem is, though, why the fuck? That just brings up another question. Why can't they just take the hour to air it on Fuel TV as well here in the States with some subtitles in the middle of the damn night if they have to? This is ridiculous. Like, you'd only have to hire like 5 guys or something to make that happen. It makes no sense, but I'll check it out. Ray's making it seem like
they tend to air it late, which is stupid because by then you already know who's won because you've seen the bloody card with the finale on. But last time they aired it late, it's stupid because it is worth watching. It's really good, and you get to see some of the guys that are going to go on and are going to make an attempt in the UFC.
Yeah, there's no reason it can't air on the same night here in the U.S. It's just a matter of just putting the right people in the right place. That's kind of ridiculous, but the UFC's. I mean, basically, it's on 3 fucking channels right now. So what do you expect? Yeah, I'll check it out. Why the fuck not? As long as the fights are good. What's up, Brooks?
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get to watch, a lot of the season. I think I caught maybe the first 4 episodes on UFC.com. But, from what I've seen, it was it's like everybody was getting injured on there. I think I watched the first 4 episodes, and I think at least 2 of the winners had gotten injured, so they had to get replaced. Right from the beginning, everybody was getting injured. And like Ray was saying, one of the original finalists had gotten injured too, so now he's replaced with, somebody that lost. So, I think that kind of sucks when that shit happens. Other than that, as far as the antics and everything, I guess it's funny to watch sometimes, but I can't imagine being in that house with, all those guys and having someone do that shit all the time. Who was it? Who was the one that threw the beds in the water? And now they had to sleep on the base the whole time? Who was that?
Yeah, the guy who's in the final, William Macario, he's mental, he's crazy.
MMA mental.
Hey!
Hey!
Not only did he throw the other team's beds out, he threw his own fucking team's beds out, didn't he?
He did, and his own bed as well.
What is that? I don't get it, but maybe he's just used to that shit, and he was just game planning, and he's fucking up these guys' backs, so easier road to the finals, I guess. But another thing I didn't like about it is, like you were saying, Ray, is that they haven't even played the final episode to see who's in the finals, and we've already got the matchup scheduled for this coming up weekend. So I don't understand that either. But it's whatever. I guess I'm still gonna watch.
All right, in this card, we will get to the card. There's going to be 6 fights on the main card, which will be on Fuel TV. 7 fights on the prelim card, all on Facebook. The 7 Facebook fights will be 2 middleweight fights, Antonio Natal versus Anthony Smith, and Kyle Magalhaes versus Carlos Romola. A featherweight fight, Rodrigo Dam facing Mizuto Hirota. A welterweight fight, Ildemar Alcantara taking on Leandro Silva. Featherweights, Godfredo Pepe taking on Felipe Arantes. In the middleweights, Hani Marks is going to take on Derek Brunson. And in the bantamweights, Rafael Asunciao fights Vaughn Lee. That's really the only fight that interests me that much in the prelims. Rafael Asunciao, he's 4-1 in his last 5 fights, coming off that win against Mike Easton. The only loss in his last 5 fights was to Eric Koch, who almost had a title shot against Aldo before losing it to an injury. But I do think he's going to defeat Vaughn Lee in his backyard, and I think Rafael Asunciao will be definitely a contender in that bantamweight division. As far as the prelims go, what fights stand out to you?
I am not going to even insult the listeners of this show, their intelligence, by even pretending to give a shit about the prelims on this card. Brooks, what do you think?
I'm actually pretty interested to see Antonio Natal against Anthony Smith. Natal's a great grappler, and I watched his fight with Miguel Falco, or however you pronounce his name. But man, Falco just laid an ass whooping on him in the first round for about 5 minutes, and it's amazing to me that the guy was even standing after that and survived the whole thing. But he came out in the second round, and he got Falco down, and he got a submission. And I was really impressed with that. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how well he performs in the UFC. I think it'd be great to see Smith put an ass whooping on him in the first round, and then Natal get out there and submit him in the second round again. That's entertaining to me. So that's the fight I'm looking forward to the most.
I'll be honest with you, I'll watch all of the prelims because I always watch the UFC prelims. But there's not really one fight I'm looking at. I think I can't wait to see that fight. There's obviously two guys that fight out of the UK on the prelims. You've got Carlos Vermeulen, even though he's not born in the UK, he fights out of the UK, and you've got Vaughan Lee. I think Vaughan Lee will lose. I think Vermeulen will probably win. Rodrigo Dam, I don't mind him, seeing how he gets on. He was obviously on the first season of Tough Brazil. Godofredo Pepe was on the first season of Tough Brazil. Derek Brunson's coming off the win over Chris Lieber, but I mean, it was a good win, but it wasn't a great fight. So I don't think I'm not really looking forward to any particular fight on the prelims. I think the main card's good, but the prelims, I'll watch them all, but I'm not sitting here picking out fights I'm excited for.
All right, and we will get to the main card. I do want to talk about the top 3 cards individually, but the first 3 cards in the main card, or the first 3 fights in the main card, Rony Jason, the Tough One Brazil winner, taking on Mike Wilkinson, Eric Silva taking on Jason High, and Daniel Sarafian, the guy who missed out on the last Tough One Brazil and was unable to fight Cesar Mutante. He's going to be fighting Eddie Mendez. Which one of these fights stands out the most to you? Brooks?
I'm looking forward to the Rony Jason Mike Wilkinson fight, only because I'm a huge Rony Jason fan. He's a bad motherfucker. Comes out with his Jason mask. I like it. He's a finisher. He goes in there. He finishes people. Mike Wilkinson's no slouch. This is going to be a war, I think, possibly fight of the night. So, I'm just looking forward to someone getting knocked out or submitted.
I like these 3 fights. I like Daniel Sarafian. He was, for me, he was the best fighter on Tough Brazil, and I think he would have won the final. Obviously, he pulled out of injury. I'm really looking forward to seeing Eric Silva because I think he's one of the best up and coming guys at the welterweight. But I've got to agree with Brooks. The fight I'm looking forward to most out of them 3 is Rony Jason and Mike Wilkinson. Maybe for slightly different reasons to Brooks, because I'm a big Mike Wilkinson fan. I've got I like Mike Wilkinson. I class him as a friend. I've interviewed him a couple of times. I've got so much time and respect for Mike Wilkinson. Yeah, so I mean, I'm rooting for him big time. I mean, his fight with Brendan Loughnane at the Tough Smashes finale, or well, it wasn't the finale, but it was the unofficial finale, I suppose. It was brilliant. I don't know how that fight didn't win Fight of the Night personally. The fight they gave it to Fight of the Night to was a joke. But yeah, I can't wait to see this night. I'm going to go against Brooks. I think Wilkinson's going to come in. He's going to push the pace. And obviously, Jason's going to be the favourite. Jason's in Brazil. But I'll tell you what, Wilkinson's so hungry for this fight. And all his fights, his previous fights in the UFC and obviously the Ultimate Fighter were at lightweight. That's not his weight class. I wait to see him at his own weight class. So, yeah, Wilkinson's undefeated as well. And let's not forget, he didn't lose on Tough Smashes. He pulled out because he got poked in the eye and he tore something in his eye. So he didn't even lose on the show. But yeah, so I got Wilkinson. I can't wait to see that fight.
Eric Silva is the best and only Brazilian in the best and only Silva in the UFC that I actually give a damn about. I think he's a great fighter. I think he is the real. I will be watching that damn fight. I do give a shit about it. I think he's got some impressive shit that he's only hinted at before. As long as he explodes, it's going to be a damn good fight. I have him all the way. This will be the most interesting fight on the card for me. Hands down, even the main event aside. That's what I gotta say.
Yeah, Silva is definitely a good prospect. Rony Jason and Mike Wilkinson is the fight I'm looking most forward to. Like Ray mentioned, Wilkinson is undefeated, and Rony Jason has yet to lose in the UFC. 2-0 against Godfredo Castro in the Tough Brazil 1 featherweight finale, and a knockout victory against Sam Sicilia. Alright, we will get to these first 3 fights, though. You got the light heavyweights, Thiago Silva taking on Rafael Cavalcante. Who you got in this fight? And also, who is going to piss clean for either one of these guys? Both of these guys are notorious for missing drug tests. I think Silva's missed 3 and Cavalcante's missed 2 or something. Who is going to piss clean for Silva and Cavalcante? Ray?
Before I give my view on this fight, I've just seen some breaking news, which probably affects me more than anyone else, but I'm really, really excited. Obviously, we recently saw Bellator picked up 3 of the top UK talents outside the UFC. We've seen them pick up Paul Sass, Martin Stapleton, and a guy, of course, I've had a lot to do with, which is Rob C4 Sinclair. They've just announced a TV deal with the UK as well, so we're finally going to get to see Bellator in the UK, which is amazing. I'm so pleased.
And really quick to correct myself, Silva's tested positive twice and Cavalcante once.
Sorry, because obviously, by far, Bellator is the second best mixed martial arts promotion in the world behind the UFC. That's my opinion. UFC is leagues above anybody, but if there's one that's pushing it at the minute, it's Bellator. I think Bellator's a fantastic promotion with the tournament stuff, so I'm really excited to see that. So sorry to go off track. Thiago Silva, Rafael Cavalcante. We talked about this last night, me, Luke and Brooks did, and it's a strange fight for me because when Thiago Silva's on it, Thiago Silva is an absolute beast, and he has looked really good when he's on form. He hasn't looked great recently. He didn't look great against Gustafsson. In his last fight, which of course he won, but he won after his opponent got tired, obviously Nedkov, and then he obviously failed his test, so he got the fight was ruled no contest. Cavalcante's looked good in the past, but he's only actually really beat one top-tier guy, in my opinion, which is King Mo. I think King Mo's good, but then we've seen King Mo get knocked out by that spinning back fist against a guy that isn't really that well-known, Eddie Newton. Based on that, I think Silva will win this fight. I think Silva tends to finish people as well, so I think he'll knock Cavalcante out. Again, it's not really... I'd say on the main card, on the 6-fight main card, that's probably the fight I'm the least most excited about. But don't tell Jay, because he'll lynch me.
Oh man, this fucking fight. Thiago Silva's going to win this one because, as far as I know, he is the weed man. Marijuana, it is a performance-enhancing drug. But of course, it should be legal. It has nothing to do with physically enhancing your performance. It's all mental.
Mental.
Exactly. Now, so Thiago Silva, he takes this, and everybody's going to piss clean because it's Brazil, people. What do you think, Brooks?
Yeah, I forgot about that. Since we are in Brazil, I think both of them are definitely going to piss clean. But when it comes to the fight, I think this is the hardest one to pick. Silva hasn't won a fight without failing a drug test since like fucking 2009 or something stupid like that. Obviously I think the weed overturn and shit was stupid, but Cavalcante hasn't fought over in the UFC yet. This is his first fight, and we've heard from Cormier and everybody else that even though they've fought on the big stage over at Strikeforce, it's still a lot different when you come over to the UFC. I think this is such a closely contested fight that it's going to be the little things that make a difference. I think it's going to be a war. I think it's going to be back and forth. I'm looking forward to seeing this fight. And, like I said, it's going to be the little things that make a difference. So just Silva having the experience in the octagon and the UFC, I think that's going to be a factor. And I know he's hungry to get a win without getting it overturned. So he probably doesn't give a shit. He'll probably be smoking some weed before the fight since they are in Brazil. But it'll make him feel better, relax a little bit, and he's going to come out and he's going to knock out Cavalcante late in the fight, probably in the second or third round.
Like I mentioned on the Word on the Street, I am taking bets on what kind of animal's urine Thiago Silva is going to submit. Humans at 2-1, cow at 2-1, pig at 3-1. Your long shot is chicken at 7-1. Get your bets in before the fight on Saturday. All right, the Tough Brazil 2 finale. William Macario taking on Leonardo Santos. I have no idea what either of these guys are about. I didn't watch Tough 2. So probably for a better breakdown and prediction, let's actually start this one off with Ray.
Right, I've already kind of touched on it before, but for me, the one person that stood out the most on this show across the whole season was William Macario. This is the guy I was talking about who was the piss taker, the one who threw all the mattresses in the water. But when he got in the cage and fought, this guy was a beast. He is like a bigger version of Melvin Gillard in his appearance and the way he fights. I mean, normally in the later stages of the house, this is where you get your tougher fights.
He's black.
He's black. Quarter-final, semi-final, he won both of them with a first-round knockout. I haven't seen the semi-final fight yet because it hasn't been aired, but it's not on that UFC channel. But on the quarter-final, he actually had the guy running away from him, and he still caught him with a punch and knocked him out. It was amazing. Leonardo Santos, he had a good run. He made it to the semis. He actually lost to Santiago in the semis, who ironically was the only guy in the house who wasn't Brazilian. He was actually Argentinian, which was quite funny, because obviously there's a big rivalry between the two countries. And he made it all the way to the final, but then he broke his hand and had to drop out. If Macario doesn't win this fight, I'll be really, really shocked. And I think Macario will win this with a first-round knockout. I mean, he has looked awesome on the show. It's worth noting, though, with Leonardo Santos, and this is something Brooks pulled up yesterday when we talked about it, this guy has got a lot of experience. And he's fought some really big names. I mean, some of the people he's fighted, or the name that stood out to me straight away, was he faced Takanori Gomi when Gomi was in his prime in Japan. So he's no joke, but Macario was by far the star of the Tough Brazil series, in my opinion. So I'll be picking him to win a round one knockout, but I'll be rooting for him to win as well because he's such a good character.
Ramses, what are your thoughts on the Tough 2 Brazil finale? Tough Brazil 2 finale.
I've never heard of these people. Somebody flip a coin. I don't know. Brooks, I'll go with whatever Brooks says.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Ray here. I'm gonna go with Macario. Just riding the momentum out of the Tough House. As Ray said, Santos is not a slouch. He's been around for a long time. He's been fighting since 2002. He fights out of Nova União, which is a big factor right there. I'm not counting him out. I know Ray's saying it's not even close, but with the experience, the great camp, I do think he has a shot. But Macario has the momentum in his favor. Santos already lost, and apparently Williams just been steamrolling the competition. So I got to go with Macario, whether it's by finish or decision. I'm not sure, but definitely Macario.
I agree.
All right, it looks like I'll have to make it a clean sweep, going with William Macario. It sounds like the UFC wants to make him into a character. He's sinking everyone's beds. That's kind of messed up. They don't give everyone else except him beds back. Because speaking, you gotta have a good back if you're going to be fighting all these people. So I'll go ahead and go with Macario, make it a clean sweep. The heavyweights, the main event, a fight that has quite a bit of title contendership implications. Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira, a.k.a. Big Nog, taking on Vi Cavallo, Fabricio Verdum. Who you got in this fight? We'll start it off with the guy who's made a strong first showing on the Roundtable, Brooks Bailey.
I appreciate it, Jake. But, I got to go with Verdum. These guys fought a long time ago over in Pride, and that was when Nogueira was pretty prime back then. But since then, he's had a lot of miles put on him. He's taken a lot of punishment. It's obviously taken its toll on him. I think he's slowed down a lot. I think Verdum's right at the spot he wants to be in his career. He's got a good roll going here. He just absolutely destroyed Roy Nelson. I'm surprised he couldn't finish him because those knees and the eyes were just killing me watching him. But that's Roy Nelson, like I was telling Ray. But I got to go with Verdum. I don't think Nogueira's chin is what it used to be because he was always known for being able to take pretty much as much punishment as you could dish out to him. But I think Verdum's Muay Thai has improved, crazy since, over the years. And obviously he's always been a great grappler. And I think he's pretty much better than Nogueira in every aspect of the game at this point in both of their careers. I don't think it's going to last long. and I think Verdum's going to get him in the plum and just knee the shit out of him, and Nogueira's gonna buckle, and that'll be it. So I'm taking Verdum second round KO.
I remember their first fight, like Brooks mentioned, it was obviously in Pride. Nogueira was in his prime then. It was one of the first times we've actually seen Verdum, really. It was as he was just coming into the game at that kind of level anyway. And it was a really exciting fight. I think this fight will be exciting, but I just think, like Brooks said, Verdum's time's now, where Nogueira's had his time. He's been in so many amazing fights, but his battle seems to have taken its toll on him, and he doesn't seem to be the same guy that he once was. I think, again, Nogueira goes down as one of the greatest in MMA history. I think most of his success was outside the UFC, because most of his success was in Pride. He's had obviously some great performances in the UFC, but definitely Pride was his prime. But yeah, I think Verdum wins this. I think it will go the distance. I'm not sure whether this is 3-round or 5-round, because with there being 6 fights, I'm going to assume it's a 3-round fight. But I think Verdum will win an exciting decision. He'll out-grapple Nogueira. And as the fight goes on, obviously, his cardio will push him through, and I see Verdum picking up an exciting UD. Brooks?
Oh, am I on again here?
Sorry, Ramses, that was my fault.
Hey, you threw me for a loop there. Look, I hate to come in with the conspiracy theory again, but let me just point out that this is the main event on the Brazilian card, and both fighters are Brazilian. Automatically, that sets off my bullshit detector. All right, I think this fight, of course, 2 things are going to happen. Either they're both going to come out of it looking good, like it's going to be like a totally staged war where they're both awesome, or one of them's going to put the other one over. And it's hard to tell, man. This fight has me perplexed because it all depends on what shape Nog is still in. Nobody really knows if he's got anything left yet, not even me. My mind is telling me, though, that he's probably approaching bum status. But this fight will determine that. And if Nog wins, though, it is going to be an obvious work. I just don't know if that's what's going to happen. So I can't even call this one. That's why I'm interested in seeing it, actually. It's kind of weird. What do you think, Jake?
This is definitely difficult to look at. Fabricio, he is 2-0 since coming back in the UFC. Really, in the last few years, he hasn't looked that bad, except in his fight against Alistair Overeem, who far outmatched him. Big Nog's been up and down since 2008. He hasn't won or lost 2 fights in a row. He beat Sylvia, lost to Mir, beat Randy, lost to Velasquez, beat Schaub, lost to Mir, beat Dave Herman. I think another loss is coming his way. Unfortunately, I do think Big Nog is a top 10 heavy, but I think Verdum is going to prove to be the hungrier guy. He is younger. Verdum is 35, and Big Nog is 37, not by too much, but both of them do match up pretty similarly. I think Verdum is just an inch taller. I think their reaches are identical. Both of them fight around 245 at the heavyweight mark, so they will be similar sized, probably similar strength. I think Verdum will have a little bit of a speed advantage on the ground. They're both killers. I don't see one guy really having the BJJ advantage, even though Nog, is a legend in grappling. Verdum is just as good. So I am slightly leaning toward Fabricio, but it could really go either way. That is the final topic for tonight's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Listen to the MMA Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at the MMA Podcast. Definitely visit MMAVictor.com. MMA Victor, the forums over there are great. Definitely get involved with the forums or on the actual betting game. You can bet 0, 1, or $100. Get in there. MMAVictor.com. You also can listen to MMA Victor Radio, which is this show, the MMA Podcast, MMA Mental, Early Stoppage, Word on the Street. Listen to all of us there. Definitely check that out. Ray, what's going on with MMA Mental and Jay's show, The Early Stoppage, who I think just had Kurt Hollabaugh?
Yeah, Early Stoppage had Kurt Hollabaugh. We've had John McGuire on this week. We're due to speak to Josh Burtman tomorrow, who of course has got a big fight coming up against John Fitch. So hopefully that interview comes off. That'll be definitely worth a listen. I'm sure we'll be quite outspoken about that. Me, Brooks, and Luke, we continue to do our we do a roundtable show, but we only do it on a week where there's a UFC fight on, and we only break down the main card fights. So we've done one this week, which was UFC on Fuel TV 10. Next week we'll be breaking down UFC 161. So obviously check them out. And we mentioned earlier on about my commentating, and I wanted to say a line to you. And obviously I'll say the line to you now. I didn't get a chance to say it on, but when I first started watching MMA, I used to pay to go and watch the fights. I used to pay to go and watch UFC. Then after setting up MMA Mentor, I then got to go to watch the UFC for free. And now that I'm commentating, I now get paid to watch MMA. So talk about that as a turnaround. So paid to watch it, then go and watch it for free, and now I get paid to watch it.
Dude, as a commentator, you're gonna need a catchphrase, man. You're gonna need it is all over. You're gonna need something, dude.
Well, when I commentated on one of the fights, I got to use the term tapping or napping, and he chose to nap rather than tap. So that was my
Ray,
for the day.
I would love during an exciting fight for you to just scream, "This is mental!" That's
a good one, actually.
Yeah.
And then I'd hear you from your TV shouting, "MMA mental."
I will be there screaming it. That is fucking awesome. So yeah, definitely follow MMA Mental, MMAmental.com, and on Twitter at MMA Mental. Ramses, you can follow at The Ant Jimmy Show. What's the word on the street?
If you want to engage in sexual intercourse with a hot, attractive female tonight, follow me on Twitter, The Ant Jimmy Show. That's the word on the street.
Brooks, you've got MMA Addiction. Tell us where to follow MMA Addiction and how to follow you on Twitter.
Well, as you said, it's pretty simple. Follow me on Twitter at the MMA Addiction, and same thing with Facebook. It's the MMA Addiction. It's fresh, brand new. Just starting up. So we look to make a big impact here. Get the podcast on there and news and interviews and everything else. So and I just want to give a big thank you to you guys to let me be on here with you, and big thanks to Ray again for helping me out with everything.
Looking forward to having you on again in the future soon, man. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are down with MMA Victor Radio, we got a busy 24 hours coming up. You can listen to Word on the Street tonight, live. No hammer downtime, but probably around midnight Eastern. And then, of course, the MMA podcast. That's tomorrow at 6 Eastern. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next week. We gone.
We're gone.
Ray with the American accent.